I was one of the Native American children, adopted at birth and removed from our country's Indian reservation system. I was raised in a small middle-class farming community, but was never told of my true American Indian heritage. It was still taboo back in those early days. The years passed, and in 1987 I lost both parents. While going through their personal belongings, my wife discovered my adoption papers and she began a search. 5 years later, I was reunited with my biological Lakota family, living on the Lower Brule Sioux Indian Reservation of South Dakota. I am a son of two mothers and a product of two worlds that had collided. But I have an equal amount of love and pride for both. I'm Paul LaRoche, and the stories you are about to see are an attempt to share this true American story of a hidden heritage.
Hello, and welcome to Hidden Heritage. Today I'd like to share the 7 fundamental Lakota values that shape their identity. These timeless virtues served as guiding principles for the Lakota people and continue to be relevant in today's world. Each one of the values embodies a different aspect of what it means to live a life of integrity, community, and respect for oneself and others. The 7 sacred values were given to the Lakota by the White Buffalo Calf Woman over 19 generations ago. The White Buffalo Calf Woman is a sacred woman of supernatural origins, central to Lakota spirituality, and as the primary cultural prophet. Oral traditions relate that she brought 7 sacred ceremonies and values for the Lakota people to live by. These virtues have also suffered through the loss of language and today's fast-paced technological lifestyle. The 7 values also align with the 7 sacred ceremonies, the 7 grandfathers, and the 7 directions. The sacred values include fortitude, respect, compassion, honesty, generosity, humility, and wisdom. The 7 sacred virtues have been adopted by many, but not all, of the American Indian tribes. The values focus on the relationship we have with all of creation and offer a pathway for the way people should treat others. I have told the story of following the 7 directions before, but it's worth repeating, especially because it ties into the 7 Lakota virtues that we are talking about here today. It was early in the Brule journey, roughly around the year 1997. We were performing at a small music festival over a 3-day weekend when a lot of frustration that I was harboring began to surface. This was really unusual for me, and an elderly Native American man noticed my carrying on. He cautiously approached me, and after a short conversation to break the ice, he asked me what was going on and could he help. Well, I told him that I was losing faith in the music industry and was frustrated with our group Brule and its progress, and I wasn't sure what to do. That's when he explained to me about the 7 directions, and this is how he explained it to me. He said, Paul, every moment of every day, us human beings make a decision to travel in one of the 7 directions. And he started by explaining that the first decision we make is to travel in one of the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, or west. To the Lakota, these 4 directions are represented by the colors red, black, yellow, and white. And at the same time, when we make that first decision, whether we're going to go north, south, east, or west, we also make another decision which brings in the 2 sacred directions, which are above and below. And though we don't really travel above or below, consider them the positive and the negative, the good and the bad. So we make a conscious decision to travel in one of those 2 directions at the same time. And they're represented by the colors green for Mother Earth and blue for Father Sky. above and below. So then we make a decision finally to follow and listen to the seventh direction, which is the most important direction of all. It's represented by the color purple, and it is the direction from within our own heart, or some might consider it intuition that we all have been given by our Creator. So it's been said that when a person has the ability, every moment as we make those decisions, to listen to all seven of these directions and to apply them, especially the seventh direction, it's at that moment that we are allowed to walk the red road, which, to the Lakota, is the good way to live. Let's look at each of these seven virtues and consider how they apply to our lives today. Fortitude means strength of mind, courage in the face of adversity. For the Lakota, fortitude was essential for survival and resilience. Life on the plains was harsh, and it required inner strength to endure hardships and stay committed to one's values and to the community. In today's fast-paced world, fortitude remains vital. Life challenges us in many ways, from career pressure to personal struggles. When we cultivate fortitude, we remind ourselves to stay grounded, to face difficulties with courage, and to be patient as we work through them. Fortitude is about persistence, about meeting life's obstacles with a sense of purpose and calm. Strength isn't always physical. Patience and persistence are also a strength that we need to develop and nurture over the course of our lives. I remember when I was young, years before Brûlé, my dad had talked to me about the virtue of patience. I was young and just starting out in music, but my dad said that anything was achievable with the right amount of patience. In the long run, he was correct, and Brûlé did reach a level of success not imagined. But I'm reminded that if he would have told me that in my case, patience would mean 30 years of hard work, I probably wouldn't have been so receptive to the idea. Inner strength is to not give up over a long period of time, and is a virtue to strive for and to achieve. Respect is the main component of the Lakota moral code, and includes all things that are placed upon the earth, whether it be people or plant. Honoring other people's thoughts, wishes, and words, and to never interrupt another or mock or rudely mimic them. Allow each person the right to personal expression. Respect is at the heart of the Lakota values. It begins with oneself, but extends to all of life, to family, friends, strangers, nature, and even one's adversaries. Respect isn't just about treating others kindly. It's about honoring the sacredness in everyone and everything around us. Today, respect can be a grounding force amid our polarized world. Practicing respect helps us to listen openly, to consider different perspectives, and to acknowledge the dignity of others. Whether in our families, workplaces, or communities, respect encourages us to see the humanity in others and to treat them with care. In the world I grew up in, before I discovered my true Lakota heritage, I was taught to respect and honor my parents and adults in general. But after returning to the reservation and beginning my assimilation process, I was taught again about honoring the elders. But here's the thing. Never did I see that honoring goes so deep or have such meaning. I now was learning through example and seeing what it meant to honor and respect the elders. It was almost like, in the world I grew up in, my observation was that as a person became older, their importance and value to the community dwindled with age until finally they ended up in a retirement or nursing home, and in some ways were almost forgotten about. Now, I had good parents and had a good proper upbringing, for that was my impression of the aging process. But now, in this new American Indian world, this process was reversed, almost 180 degrees. In other words, what I now was learning is that as one aged, their importance and value to the community increased with age, until in the eldest of years they became the most important, and would oversee and advise the community, family, and the tribe. It was a wake-up call for me, an important lesson late in life, but one that totally changed my perspective on honoring the elders. Another example of respect that I learned from my new culture was the respect that the warriors demonstrated in the early days and the respect they had for their adversaries. I had heard about the term counting coup, but never really knew what it meant. In days gone by and in early times, it was considered a bolder act of bravery and respect for a person to, let's say, sneak up on the enemy in the night and touch them without them ever knowing. This was done many times by the warriors as opposed to killing them. It was something I had never been taught before, and came to realize it was a way to respect and save your opponent's life, but still win the battle. Generosity is given from the heart, often with no expectation of something in return. In traditional Lakota society, generosity was seen as a mark of strength. Those who had the most were expected to give the most, ensuring that everyone in the community was cared for. Today, we often hear the phrase, pay it forward, which is rooted in the spirit of generosity. True generosity, however, isn't about giving for recognition or reward. It's about sharing what we have, our time, energy, resources, and love. When we practice generosity, we nurture our connections with others and create communities that care for each other. I've told this story before too, but I'd like to share it again here today. I was attending my first powwow. It was the summer of 1994. And I was at the rustic, small, traditional powwow grounds there on the Lower Brule Sioux Indian Reservation. A powwow usually lasts about 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And halfway through the second day, the powwow announcer said that Sunday that there was going to be a giveaway. And I said, kind of softly, well, what's a giveaway? And there were two elderly women just behind me that kind of giggled and laughed a little bit. And I overheard them say, boy, we sure have a lot to teach this new one that's come back. Well, I went on to find a little bit more about the giveaway and what it meant, and here's what they told me. Back in early days, it was very common to have a giveaway, and here's how they would do that. Let's say that there was a family that had gone through a traumatic event, maybe lost a loved one, or had suffered a great loss of some sort, or perhaps it was a celebration. But whatever the case, they were at the point where they needed those resources. And so a giveaway was held for those in need. The community then would come out and bring all kinds of things out to the middle of the area. It could have been a powwow grounds. And they wouldn't just bring small things or baskets of clothing. They brought everything. It was almost as if those who had things in abundance were taught to give that and to give it away freely to those in need. So they would bring forth food, clothing, and in some cases even livestock, so that the others could get back on their feet. In turn, this process would go through different cycles. As others became needy, those that were in good shape would bring things forward for the others. And this cycle went on. And in my mind, it seemed like it created a very healthy and giving environment. I was never told about the giveaway or could never grasp that concept in my younger days. After both of my parents had deceased, which took place over the course of a year, we had an auction and brought up a lot of the things that my parents had. There was a lot of things. I think every family goes through this. We brought them to the big armory building and had that auction. But when it was done, I felt a little emptiness and a little incomplete. Yes, there was some funds that were accumulated through the sales. But as time went by, it all was forgotten, and I thought to myself, after learning about the giveaway ceremony on the reservation, I wished that I would have known about that back in those days, because it would have meant so much more to give some of those things away, perhaps all of their things, to an individual, to a family. They would have meant more to that family, and it would have meant more to us. It was just a lesson that it took me a lot of years to learn, and I still remember about that giveaway. Compassion is a deep, empathetic understanding of others' pain, coupled with a desire to help. For the Lakota, compassion was essential to maintaining strong community bonds. Recognizing and addressing the needs of others allowed the community to thrive together. In our lives today, compassion encourages us to look beyond ourselves. It's the small acts of kindness that make a difference. A word of support, a listening ear, a simple act to ease another's burden. In a world where many struggle with isolation and hardship, compassion helps us bridge divides and reminds us of our shared humanity. Honesty is about truthfulness in words and actions. For the Lakota, honesty was not only a matter of personal integrity, but also a way of showing respect for others. Honest communication builds trust, a critical foundation in all relationships. In today's world, where misinformation and distrust are common, honesty is more important than ever. Living honestly involves being truthful with ourselves and with others. It means having the courage to admit mistakes, to own up to shortcomings, and to speak the truth even when it's difficult. Honesty is the basis for building authentic, lasting connections. Humility is a profound virtue that speaks to recognizing our place in the world. For the Lakota, humility meant understanding that one is a part of a much larger world. It's the opposite of arrogance and is grounded in an awareness of our limitations and a respect for the power and wisdom of nature and community. Today, humility reminds us to stay grounded, to approach life with an open mind, and to be willing to learn from others. It's about realizing that no matter how much we achieve, we are all students of life. Humanity makes us better listeners, more receptive to feedback, and more willing to grow. And finally, wisdom. Wisdom is more than knowledge. It's understanding life's complexities and knowing when and how to act. Lakota wisdom is drawn from experience, tradition, and a deep connection to the natural world. Wisdom guides our decisions and helping us to navigate life with integrity and purpose. In today's age, wisdom involves listening to our inner voice and learning from our experiences. It's the patience to think before we act, to consider our consequences, to consider the consequences of our actions, and to seek understanding. Wisdom is the ability to find balance and to lead others with a gentle hand, whether in our families, workplaces, or our communities. The 7 Lakota virtues offer a pathway for living a balanced, honorable life. Fortitude, respect, generosity, compassion, honesty, humility, and wisdom are values that don't belong to any one culture alone. They speak to the heart of what it means to be a human being. In a world that often emphasizes personal gain, the Lakota virtues remind us of the importance of community, integrity, and respect for all life. By practicing these virtues, we contribute to a more compassionate and connected world, one small action at a time. Some years ago, I made the connection between explaining about the 7 directions and applying the 7 Lakota virtues. When applied together, it made for a strong and moral fiber, a good way to live, what the Lakota call following the red road. I understood more clearly how in the early days, centuries ago, before organized religions, before the Bible teachings, and before the 10 Commandments, how the indigenous were able to make that connection between the human frailties and the higher power, or God, and how they followed a set of values and practices to live a good life, one we would respect even today. As for me, I am proud of my Lakota heritage, and I am proud to be an American. I am a son of 2 mothers, and a product of 2 worlds that had collided, but I have an equal amount of love and pride for both. But I'm also a human being and subject to the frailties and faults that we all strive to overcome. I have gained so much from discovering, or should I say, the rediscovery of the 7 sacred virtues, and trying to apply them to my life daily the best that I can. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Hidden Heritage. I hope these insights into the Lakota virtues inspire you to reflect on your own life and the ways that you might bring these timeless values into your daily actions. I'm Paul LaRoche, and this is Hidden Heritage.